Hey guys, welcome back to Altaz-Review, where we give you all kinds of updates on gaming news. It looks like we got another Switch port for a well-known game, and this time it's Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown, one of the greatest fighter jet experiences in gaming. Ace Combat is one of the more accessible and easy to grasp collections of flying games, and it lets you play out realistic flight maneuvers and missions with a fairly detailed story. And now, after almost 5 years, even after a lot of us forgot about the game, Ace Combat 7 is coming back now on the Switch. So let's talk about how good this port is and revisit the game itself. Ace Combat is a series by Bandai Namco that's all about fighter jets and owning the skies. It's basically the same feeling as a car racing game, but with using jets. But to test your skills in a plane, you need to go through thrill-inducing courses that test speed, agility, and in this case, combat abilities. Ace Combat has always been one of the few flight games that stays a little more accessible to casual gamers and focuses on the action and fun of flying a plane. The other famous flight games are games like Microsoft Flight Simulator and other flight sims that usually just focus on the details of taking off, landing, and communicating like a real pilot. But if you're not into the whole simulation aspect, then it's not really the game for you. But the same way that car games have in-depth simulators and at the same time they also have easy-to-understand racing games, the Ace Combat series gives us the chance to learn and play around with aircrafts in an easier way and still feel the thrill of being a pro pilot. But that's just the tip of the iceberg for Ace Combat. The newest game in the series, released in 2019, is Ace Combat 7, and now it's here for the Nintendo Switch. Ace Combat is based on a fictional setting with mostly similar aircrafts and technology to modern-day real life. But it takes advantage of the fictional setting to make some amazing concept aircrafts, whether they're futuristic airplanes for you to fly or giant boss aircrafts in the main story. The story itself isn't the most intense, but it's enough to get you invested in the missions and at least know where you're headed and why you're carrying out this mission. The setting and the characters are good enough to make you care about what you're doing for the entirety of the fairly short main campaign. But the real kicker is the dogfights and missions themselves. Ace Combat 7 has some difficulty options, but if you play the standard way, it's pretty tricky and makes you multitask by focusing on several different objectives, keeping all your enemies in sight and even protecting your allies from getting flanked. There's a lot to focus on, but as you upgrade your jet and master the different maneuvers, you're able to easily clear missions while feeling like Maverick from Top Gun. Speaking of which, there's also a ton of DLCs included in the Switch version, and you can also get the Top Gun DLC if you want to run the courses and planes from the movie. The weather plays into the game as well, since you can use clouds for cover and you have to survive the harsh lightning storms while fighting enemies. Some missions have you flying stealthily in heavily obscured scenery due to the harsh weather effects, but it requires a mix of managing your onboard tools and sonars with what you can physically see in front of you. It really puts you in the position of a high-speed pilot without going into the same level of detail as an actual simulator. And all that crazy action is accompanied with some nicely fitting OSTs and songs that change depending on your situation and the type of mission you're playing. The game has scores straight out of Top Gun. But if we're comparing to some recent games, I'd say Ace Combat 7 reminds me of another Bandai Namco game, Armored Core 6. Ace Combat 7 and Armored Core 6 have a lot in common when it comes to air fights and using your guns and missiles. Tracking enemies with your cursor, getting a lock on, and flying in circles while trying to keep your enemies in view is a skill set you'll need in both games. Even when it comes to changing your machine and getting upgrades that suit your mission, it seems like both games were born from a similar inspiration. But Ace Combat leans more towards the action feel instead of hyper-focusing on realism and the little details. The big explosions, aircrafts, and environments take enough attention that there's no need to worry about smaller details or get too deep into the numbers. It's a fairly accessible title that anyone can get the hang of, the only difference being the score or rewards you get at the end of the mission. And even then, there's a lot of control options and upgrades that can slowly trivialize missions if you just want to get through the whole course. But regardless of how you go about the missions, Ace Combat remains one of the best flying games that allows players to get into aircrafts and the functional details of fighter jets while being able to go crazy with these flying machines. And finally, let's talk about how this game has been affected by its port. The amazing part is, Ace Combat 7 on the Switch feels pretty unchanged from the original experience. There's naturally a drop in resolution and frame rate, but in both regards, the Switch has ended up being more than capable, since the game is still visually stunning and there's close to no lag or stuttering throughout your playtime. Even though the game is a bit older, Ace Combat 7 is an impressive game that was seamlessly ported to the Switch. And this is just a reminder of how much the Switch is capable of when the developers focus on optimization And when we keep in mind the older technology of the Switch, it's a console that shouldn't be capable of much, but it's still a well-performing machine that can handle some masterclass games. The last few ports for the Switch may have suffered due to bad optimization or just high modern-gen requirements. But when it comes to ports, the Nintendo Switch still has some more to give. So let's look forward to seeing a lot more ports that work as beautifully as they do with Ace Combat 7. Well, that's what I thought about the newest Switch port, and it gave us a chance to see an older game and admire it for how well it's held up after so many years. These Switch ports will continue to help us give older games a chance and keep gaming alive on all kinds of consoles and for all kinds of audiences. But let me know what you guys thought about Ace Combat 7 on the Switch and what other games you'd like to hear about. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Until then, I hope I see you in the next video.